Hi, my name's Misha. I'm here with George Michaelopoulos, my co-host, and this is Hegemonix. And today we are going to discuss the problem or the sinking of the USS or Her Majesty. What is it? His Majesty. Now I have to get used to that. His Majesty's ship, Europe,
Yeah,
because it seems
yeah.
to be having all kinds of problems. Spain, as far as I can tell,
Definitely
is okay.
taking
They
on
just
water.
elected. Do I know?
Uh, Definitely taking on
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. Um, so the first thing that kind of brought this to my attention that it might be something we ought to address is when I heard about the same time that Great Britain and France, the rumors were swirling that they were going to both apply for IMF assistance, and um, Great Britain had done so back in mid 1970s, I think. And this is traumatic for a country when it happens. Uh, Being Greek, you probably have some idea of what it entails because it's happened in Greece and Cyprus and Italy, I think, maybe, where they design they give the money or loan the money, but they design a program that basically takes control of your economy, and you kind of have
Oh, yeah.
to do
Oh,
what they
yeah.
say. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Ironically, British did not give up their currency when they joined the EU. So they always
yes,
had one foot out the door. Whereas everybody else, especially the Greeks, they more than happily gave up the drachma, which was the oldest unit of currency in the world. Okay. Going all the way back to ancient Greece. And they gave it up because, we Greeks were good time Charlies. We were just going to be getting all this money from the EU, from Brussels and everything. And they did. And they built, they were able to host the 2004 Olympics. It was first class, everything. Unfortunately, there was a downside to it. And that's when they start tightening up the reins and things just went to pot. And they've been going to pot all over Europe. And England was not exempt from it when all is said and done.
hmm,
Even though they kept the pound sterling there and driving on the other side of the road, as they like to say, uh, still,
yeah.
they're they're in a they're in a very shitty place. Pardon my French.
Yeah, when one gets a cold or a flu, the other one catches it. It's like that uh, with Europe and Great Britain and Ireland. They part of the problem that they've had. Well, there are two huge problems that Europe has. One of them is just the great financial drain that has come from the sanctions from the war. That's hit Germany in particular very
Yeah,
hard.
right.
They've experienced. I think it was last year. Fourth quarter was negative growth. This year they're projecting, way under 1% growth,
Yeah,
if any growth.
if
And
any. Yeah.
Britain's a bit better than that, but it's not necessarily heading in the right direction.
No.
And France is the
No,
same
it's not.
way. And they have that problem. Then they have the immigration problem,
Yeah.
uh, and that's a huge kind of draw on their welfare systems. Um, and so we'll have to see
Well,
how
they're
that goes.
they're they're housing migrants and cutting welfare benefits to the native populations.
Yes, yes. Keir Starmer just, I think, announced that they was it Keir Starmer? No, it was Friedrich Merz of Germany.
Yeah.
Said they can no longer meet their welfare obligations given the current budget. And when Germany says that,
Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah.
East Germany was the only country in the world, in the history of all time, that actually made communism work at a profit. They were in the black for the most part.
Well,
Um,
they're Germans. They're very
fastidious people.
efficient people. But
Yeah,
the problem is, why isn't it happening with Germany now that it's been unified? It's because they got all these migrants, and they don't have the
yeah,
same work ethic, IQ differentials, the very criminally minded, many of them, not all, of course, it's never all, but enough
right.
of them to do what we call pattern recognition and know that most of the violent crime is being done by a certain segment of the population. In Germany's case, segments of the population. So,
Yeah,
take that for what it's worth.
yeah,
That's an anchor around the economy, you know?
yeah, and, it's all 3 of them. And what the elites in these countries, especially in the UK, seem to have made a bargain with the devil, and the bargain with the devil goes something like this: "We'll allow you to exploit our girls, and we won't make a big fuss about it, and we'll keep down public sentiment that goes against it in order to, in general, keep the peace and keep these people in, because the global liberal establishment has decided we can't work with this population that we have right now underneath us.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need to bring in people that we can lead by the nose and who are going to follow us rather than the ones that are, in charge now. And it's every place in the West.
yeah.
Um, um, they've made
Well,
that bargain with the devil,
y
and it's going to bite them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when you get right down to it, I mean, we're all God's children. I realize that there's neither Greek nor Jew, slave nor free, Scythian nor Bactrian or whatever. But that doesn't mean that there aren't genetic differences between the different ethnicities and races. And one of the thing about the European races is that they are very good at state formation, at civilization building.
Hmm.
Okay. And all you got to do is just go to France, see the magnificent cathedrals. This was done during the so-called Dark Ages.
Yeah,
Okay. Go to Greece, see ruins. Okay. These at one time were magnificent. Okay. Uh, I've been to Russia twice. I mean, they've they've got a subway system that makes ours look like a third world country.
yeah,
They have these metro stations that are like cathedrals. I mean, they're just that stunning. Um, and 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 you see that wherever the European peoples go. Okay,
yeah.
they they conquered the Western Hemisphere. Now, I'm not going to say it was all milk and honey. You know,
Right.
it was bad for the indigenous people, especially
Hmm.
because they didn't have immunity to our diseases. Neither did we have immunity to their diseases, but that's a story for another day. But, you know, I mean, just go to any town in the Midwest, charming, we just
Hmm.
nicely manicured streets, everything, Pacific Northwest is the same thing. So, what am I trying to say? It's very hard to enslave the European races to bring them to heel. It's just very hard. And if you can bring in migrants from the third world, then you've it'll help you. You think it'll help you if you're the elite.
Yeah, they think it'll help them, but
Well, they think.
yeah, but now, and they're these people, and I call them liberals. Some people have just uh, dispensed with all the attempts to classify terminology down to the nth degree and just call them all communists.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
to a certain, in a certain way, I mean, they've given up on the idea that of public ownership of all the means of production, but they haven't given up on the idea of public control of
Right.
all the means of production.
Right.
And they are engineering. They're engaged in a project of social engineering as well, progressive project of social
Yes.
engineering.
Right.
And this is just a massive progressive social engineering program. And what
All the
and
degenerate.
and from all over the Western world, it seems like they just don't care that they're displacing their own people under them because they don't have an they don't identify anymore.
Right.
All they know is that they've got lots of money and the people below them don't. And it might even be easier to deal with everybody if everybody down there was brown and everybody up top was not,
Yeah.
or
Right.
however they want to,
Right.
work it. But it just,
Well,
it's very
Braz-
insulting to everybody.
Bra- Brazil works that way. I mean, Mexico's that way. You have the Castizos at the top
Yeah.
and the Mestizos in the middle, and then you
Right.
got the Indios at the bottom, you know.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds like I'm a member of the alt right. I'm not a dissident right, but that's just the way it is. And when we talk about the elite in many of these European nations, especially England, we're not talking about Anglo Saxons. We're talking about Normans and others.
Yeah.
And the norm, I mean, you remember growing up on Robin Hood and his merry men. Well, if you dig deep, what's going on is he robbed from the rich and he gave to the poor. Well, Robin Hood was a Saxon. He was poor. His people were poor. He robbed from the rich, who were the Normans, and you can see, and the Normans didn't speak English. They spoke a type of French, and they treated the Saxons like dirt. And there's still a lingering part of that, just very lingering. If you look at the names of the typical names of most of the people, the hereditary peers in the House of Lords, they have French sounding names,
Mm.
whereas uh, people like Margaret Thatcher did not. That was
Yeah.
an artisanal name, and there was some lingering prejudice against her. They kind of looked down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, that's especially acute in England and has been for several centuries. It's a, it's accelerated somewhat with the integration of a Jewish financial elite, especially the
Hmm.
Sassoons and the Rothschilds.
Yes.
And there's a commingling, a synodal a parallel path that both of these very wealthy elites trod on,
Hmm.
which even if they don't intermarry, doesn't matter, but they have the same outlook on life, which is to be contemptuous of the lower classes.
Yeah, that's the thing about England that it's difficult because it's difficult for us over here to appreciate really unless you read about it, do some, or have met English people in certain situations. But class is still a huge thing over there.
Oh,
With
totally. It's very
us,
huge.
class has to do with whether you're poor or whether you're working class or middle class, and we recognize that as kind of a pyramid of economics. Over there, they it's like almost like the Indian caste system,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the ones at the top have evidently complete contempt for the ones towards the bottom, for the
Yeah.
working class people.
I think so.
I mean, there's no other explanation for inviting all these people to come in and rape the children.
Right.
This is
No, yeah.
either you
Exactly.
respect your people or you don't, and this is not, something that and they repress everything
Yeah.
that that anybody attempts to say anything about it, they're throwing them in prison. And they even Keir Starmer even criticized Nigel Farage for airing the dirty laundry of the British um, to the Americans when he came out and said, "Look, we got they're out of control over there. They're throwing
Yeah.
people in jail
Yeah.
for nothing."
Well,
Um,
if there was any doubt in anybody's mind why we have a Second Amendment, it's that.
yeah,
Because if you don't have a Second Amendment, you're not going to have free speech eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when the rubber hits the road, they will take your free speech away from you. And they did in England.
Yeah. Yeah. It just takes one or two bad ideas that they decide that they have to impose on everybody,
Yeah.
and suddenly, boom.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. I'm kind of a monarchist or quasi-monarchist type person, but if I were king, that's the first rule that I would pass. Everybody, everybody had. I recognize the natural right of every person to have to
Right.
bear arms, to
Yeah.
possess and bear arms,
There's
and that
there's this
secures
chap
your own civility as well. If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
saying, "Look, I'm going to give you all the freedom you need to overthrow me if I don't do a good job,"
Right.
um,
Yeah, I was listening to Charles Coulomb. He's a traditional Catholic and a monarchist of a French Canadian descent, and he was saying something about they asked a certain king several centuries ago, "What's what's your job?" I think a king of France. He goes, "My job is to protect the people from their politicians."
yeah, yeah.
I said, "Yeah, when you get right down to it, you got that."
Well, that's really what, and this goes into another show that we'll end up w- doing at some point on
Yeah,
the forest itself,
yeah,
what's going on worldwide. But protecting the people from the politicians, that is kind of what the revolution that's going across, from Russia, across Europe, and in the United States as well.
right.
Um, there are these people, and we might as well call them Western oligarchs,
Yeah, let's just do it.
uh, and they're like the boyars, and they will do whatever they. I don't want to pick on the boyars because maybe they weren't as bad as these people are. Uh, but it's a noble class kind of, and these people
Uh-huh.
aren't noble, but they have a high status, lots of money, and they actually run everything about the government, and they do it through these puppets that we see. It could be Keir Starmer in England. It could be Mertz. I mean, that's why you've had this turnover because you've got the same people behind the scenes, and they just keep throwing other people up, to stand in front whenever it gets bad enough. And it's like, no, we're going to give you more choices, but the choice is always the same. You got to live with us.
Right.
Whoever we put up
Yeah,
here, is that's
yeah.
that's the game. But um,
But I'm gonna ask you a question. Don't you see with this turnover, I mean, I call it the curse of Zelensky. In other words, all these governments that have fallen, uh, are in the process of falling. Don't don't you see that there is a hint of desperation on the part of the oligarchy that they're losing
yeah,
control or they feel they're losing control? Do you see that, or is it just me? Or am I just
no, it's
overlook
more than a hint.
analyzing
It's
it?
not a hint. It's glaringly obvious to me. I mean, I don't think that you would
Good.
have the things going on in England, for example, that you do right now if they weren't scared to death. And I mean, because if did you see the thing with the flags?
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Uh, that's all right.
Got a cold.
Did you see
Sorry.
the thing with the flags when they had in
Yeah.
England? They had the St. George
Oh, yeah.
flags out and the Union Jack, and the different ones. The Welsh had the Welsh out, and the Scottish had the Scottish out. And so Keir Starmer did a little video presentation where at the fireplace behind him they had all these English flags, and he was saying very nice things about the flags and about the being patriotic and
Uh-huh.
all that stuff about the British flags and patriotism, things that he would not have said were it not for the fact that he's on a powder keg and it's going to blow in a short amount of time, and he was just trying to keep this. He was trying to put out this one particular match that seems to be coming
Yeah.
towards him. And so there, I thought that France would be the first one to pop, and I'll
Uh-huh.
tell you why.
Tell me. Yeah.
France, the thing about them is they have a cultural tradition where I call it bolting, but there's no. I don't know of any French term. There probably is a French term for it, but it was first explained to me by a French teacher in high school, who had talked about I think the riots of '68 or something like that that they had
Yeah,
over there. And what happens in their culture is, you think, I mean, they more or less they kind of carry themselves like alley cats, all the time, and they're very very graceful and morally about on the same speed as alley cats as well.
right.
Um, but they have that Catholic background,
Yes.
and that cultural thing doesn't die out, in a generation or two or five. And when they sense that somebody in authority has lost it and they're not actually in charge of the situation anymore, they go nuts. All that repressed everything comes out. And that's, in a way, I think, an explanation for the French Revolution and a lot of other things that have happened, the riots back in the 60s
Yeah,
that they had. And when that happens, you back up and let them do it. Uh,
yeah.
but I
Well,
thought it would be
they've had 5
but
republics, right? 5
yeah, yeah. I
republics?
mean, it's not the most stable place in the world anyway. Yeah. Um, but it looks like the English is going to be the ones who start out with this.
Yeah,
They're doing this thing with the flags, and like you said, they're not an armed society, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. But they're not going to take it indefinitely. They just won't.
no, they
Uh,
can't. I mean,
yeah.
they, uh, um, I blame us for a lot of trans transnational liberalism, the idea that we have to be liberal and tolerant at all times and in all situations and with all ethnicities. And you can't say X because that would make you anti-X or whatever. And and that prevents people from being honest and realistic. And that gives certain elements what the Greeks call tharos, or the courage. It's not the right word, but the entitlement to act out in inappropriate ways. We see
Mm,
this in England with these Pakistanis. They just feel like, oh, there's a 14-year-old girl there. I'm going to kidnap her and groom her, rape her, and pass her around to my friends because she's a subhuman. She's not a part of the Ummah, or the House of Islam.
yeah.
And even within the Ummah, like in Afghanistan, for instance, they had the culture of bachabazi, in
Yeah.
which it was okay for grown men to sodomize little boys, probably from their own tribe or a different tribe. I don't know, but obviously Muslims too. Rape, in other words.
Yeah, that's what I'll never understand. That's too. I mean, I
Yeah, I
understand
mean,
the thing with younger women I understand that down to the age of puberty and not below.
yeah,
Um,
I do,
and
but
I'm not endorsing it, and I'm
I
not
mean,
endorsing
either.
rape under any circumstances.
Yeah,
Uh, but that thing about the boys, I've heard about that, and our troops that had to go into counseling because they were
yeah,
stationed next to the places where these things went on, and they could
right.
hear the screams of the little
Yeah,
boys. Uh,
yeah.
just
I mean,
nasty
that's
stuff.
got to just play with your mind. I mean, my God. And yet those other Afghanis who were perpetrating it or were witnessing it or nearby in the other room, obviously didn't bother them. So
No,
you've got to wonder about the level of consciousness that's going on here. I mean, really, this doesn't bother you? I mean, I don't get it.
not everybody's
Anyway,
like us, and that's what we're learning.
yeah, they're not like us, and we're not like them.
Yeah,
That's true diversity, by the way.
yeah. Um, so have you seen anything by David Betts, Professor David Betts?
Yes,
He is from King's College,
yes,
and he is out there sounding the alarm. And for people who watching this that don't know it, He's a professor at King's College, professor of war, the study of war, whether it's history or social dynamics or logistics or all of it. One of the most prestigious colleges that there is. Um, and he's come out in England saying there's a much better than average chance that within a few years, England's going to be in a civil war. And that, and he uses civil war because it's just people under the same sovereign fighting each other, but it could be lots of violence.
Right.
Basically, is what it
Yeah.
amounts to. And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out. Honestly, I think it's probably good that somebody in that position is coming out into British society and saying, "I got to do something about this because it could kill us all."
Yeah, well, yeah, right. I mean, it's even got to the point where even liberals are now starting to take off their rose-colored glasses here in America, and start becoming a little bit more red-pilled. I mean, people like us, but obviously Trump, the alt-right, the dissident right, have pushed the Overton window increasingly to the right. Some
Yeah,
people would say way too far to the right, but that's what you got to do, because you're not going to solve a problem if you don't accept that there's a problem in the first place.
I
Okay.
think I lost you there for a
I
second,
mean,
right
I'm,
after.
oh,
Okay, I think I
okay.
lost you there for a second, right after
Okay.
you said alt
You're,
right, dissident right.
yeah,
That whatever.
those of us on the right, from Trump all the way down to us
Hmm.
and everywhere in between, we've been pushing these things, the Overton window to the right consistently. Not because we want to do it, but because that's where reality is. It's like when Tim Pool talks about Civil War, I've talked about Civil War. I'm not preaching it, and I don't think he is either, but I am predicting it. There's a difference, okay?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, but if there's any hope of avoiding civilizational collapse, however it manifests itself, whether it's a Beirut type of civil war or civil strife, or Northern Ireland type of civil strife, or Somalia, every warlord for himself civil strife, or North and South Confederacy Union, you're not going to be able to head off that problem or find a solution for it unless you first are honest with yourself and say, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And to our liberal friends out there, you got to take off those gosh darn rose-colored glasses that we're all the same, and we have uh, this we're operating under the narrative of Martin Luther King, a great man. I'll go out and say, who believe that we should judge everybody by the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. And you and I are living by that ethos, but the people up here, they're not. you know,
Yeah.
they've created a caste system, you know, and but that's just only part of the problem. But until you see that there are problems, and it's due to demography and social welfare policies, and the military industrial complex, and the loss of morality, and the degeneracy of homosexuality, and even women running wild in the streets who've abandoned patriarchy,
Yeah.
then you're going to get to that civil strife.
Yeah.
You got to admit there's a problem, first of all.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's a matter of time. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
marching towards the cliff for a long time. So apparently, I'm switching gears a little bit here. Um, it seems like their answer in Europe to this, and in some quarters in America, is, things are going south. We need a great big war.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you've got they're trying to repress the AfD, the Alternative for
Oh, yeah.
Deutschland in Germany.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
the most popular party over there right now, and they
Mhm.
started killing them.
Yeah.
Apparently,
7. 7.
7 of them. Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that
Um,
to me is a sign of desperation.
that's just yeah,
I'm
that's clear sign.
I'm trying to think. In the during Reconstruction,
Yeah.
one member of Congress, a Republican, was killed,
Hmm.
okay, in the South. It was in Tennessee, I believe, okay? That's it. Now, before the war between the states, um, a congressman from Mississippi beat a senator from,
Oh, yeah.
uh, Massachusetts, Sumner Wells, I think his name was, with his cane within an inch of his life on the House floor.
Yeah.
But that was the extent of it. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, even Lincoln did not go out and assassinate Democrats, but
Well, they
but
are in Germany.
but they are in Germany. By God,
Yeah, and that's why I mean, that is another reason why I don't think it's they've got an inkling of fear. I think they're really, really terrified. And you look at what they're doing in Moldova as well.
uh,
That's a little off topic, but well, it's the same basic thing. They've put a lady in there who's essentially French of Romanian descent and put her in there as the head of Moldova. And she's doing everything that they want them to do, and the only way that they can keep her in power is to basically flood the ballot boxes with votes from overseas. Um, and so they're going every place. They're going nuts, and so they've got negligible growth over there in Germany as well. It's very very slim, and I'll probably put something up here about their growth,
yeah,
lack of growth in Germany. But it's been basically in a recession for a while now because the problem was the German economy was heavy manufacturing,
right,
and the whole system was built on Russian energy. And when the war started, the worst possible thing happened to them. Um, they found themselves vassals of the United States, and the United States decided, well, no, we want to starve Russia of energy revenues, and they didn't. Oh, well, no, the United States didn't care. I mean, Joe Biden, he wasn't necessarily there, didn't know what was going on,
right.
but the people around him who were running the thing, they didn't care what happened to Europe. At least not the people of Europe. Maybe
No,
to
yeah,
the some of the elites that they
right,
knew and mingled with, but the fact that it was going to drive it into a depression. I mean, I think that they believe that they're fighting for Europe, and I'm not sure they're wrong about that. But at the same time, it's just a terrible, needless price for Germany to pay. And the
sure,
Germans are getting to the point where they understand it. The French are getting to the point where they understand it. And they're even talking, the French are openly talking about mobilization and war with Russia in the short, in not too far future,
right,
next couple of years.
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen on the internet the footage of their troops doing this, that, or other maneuvers, of
uh
British, German, French. You can find different things,
sure,
but it's not exactly like the Chinese or the Russians when they're
right, yeah,
doing things. They don't have the experience and they don't have the sense of immediacy, I don't think.
no,
Um,
they don't, I don't think they have 2 years to mobilize for war against Russia. And if they tried, I'm going to come out and make a prediction that the people just won't go for it. At least significant parts of the population won't go for it. Now, maybe they can arm all the Muslims and migrants and send them into the maw of death. Um, okay, okay. Good luck
yeah,
with
but they'll
that.
switch sides like the Chechens did.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I mean, it's just, I just, the level of delusion and this brings us back to what we started with. I mean, there's just a level of delusion among the elites that they think that they can get away with this and that, yeah, things are going south. We're going to have civil war here, but let's have a big war instead. And maybe it'll calm things down on the home front. Um, that sometimes works, actually. That can work.
Yeah.
But there are times when it's not gonna work because after a while, I mean, I mean, for the 4 years that Biden was in charge, and I use those words lightly, um, people all over the South and the Midwest, and even in parts of, the red counties of Oregon and Washington State, California, we're talking about secession. You know,
Mm.
we're not going, the young white males were not going into the military. We were not meeting our quotas, and they kept on degrading their quotas, okay, or their entrance regulations and stuff like that. Because you know you're not going to be able to engineer another Pearl Harbor, which was a false flag. I think we could be confident about that now. And 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 get all the young, white boys in the Midwest and the South to say, "Yeah, sign me up. I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill them Ruskies," and stuff like that. When in the meantime, their dad's on fentanyl, their younger brothers died of suicide or something like that, and their sisters are getting raped by Guatemalans. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you could do that during the Depression in America, which was still a majority European nation, 90%, and safe and lived in nice little towns. Sure, times were hard, but you didn't go around killing each other, for no reason at all.
Yeah.
You
Weak men create hard times. Yeah. And that's where we are right now.
Mhm.
And that's the main difference, like you were saying, between what is happening, say, in World War II, where you had a particular enemy, and I'm not going to go into. There's and I'm not opposed to it. There's a effort to revisit exactly what happened during World War II, who did what, and the equities involved in it. But it was clear to everybody that there was an enemy there, and you had people that were patriotic in
Sure.
America that were
Yeah.
happy to, and then Pearl Harbor happened, like you said, and people were lined up to enlist. Now it's not like that anymore, and people aren't necessarily. It's not only that they're not that patriotic; it's that um, they're not rugged
Yeah.
at all. There's
Right.
not a memory of being rugged, other than some of the Vietnam vets, that because after that, you're talking about wars against camels and
Yeah.
tents and
Right.
stuff like that. There's not,
Yes. Little brown people, you
yeah,
know.
you just
Yeah.
go to Baghdad as soon as the only thing that stops you from driving directly to Baghdad 60 miles an hour in all your uh, armaments is the fact that there's a sandstorm. And when it passes, you finish the job. And that's the
Yeah,
only thing
exactly.
that's in your way, really.
Yeah.
Um, that's what the thing with the George Soros was, where back in the 90s, he said, what we have to do is, if we're going to go look east and try to break up Russia, which is their main thing that they're
Yeah.
interested in doing, why all this sanctions stuff and why they're willing to tank their economies, um, we need to use Eastern European people, because our people will not go for this. I mean, they can't, there it's still 50, what is it, 58,000 people, 58,000 soldiers that died in Vietnam.
Right.
I think that's probably, well, I don't want to do the math on it, but it's only a few months of what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And and that was a trauma for my generation. I'm a little older than you, but yeah, I was not old enough to get drafted, but all I remember the college riots and everything.
Yeah.
I do. Like, I remember Kent State. Um, you know
Yeah, you're not gonna have that kind of combination of gung ho and rugged,
right.
um, and it wouldn't matter anyway
Yeah.
because in 2014, the Obama administration did one of the stupidest things that anybody could actually do, and decided to have a coup d'état in Ukraine,
Right.
overthrew the government, and let and I think it was as much the CIA, and I don't know how much. I think he greenlighted it, but I don't think it was his grand idea to do it because he was on the record as saying, "Look, they have, um, escalatory dominance over there, and we don't wanna fight them directly."
Yeah.
That's what they I mean, if you
You know, I'm gonna say something somewhat positive about Obama. I mean, the man did immeasurable harm to the United States, and most of the harm he did was during his 3rd term, which was Biden. I mean,
That's true.
that was infinitely worse than anything he did directly
Yeah.
during his 2 terms. He wasn't out there looking for war per se, against Russia at least. Now, he did take George Bush's 2 wars and he multiplied them to 7,
Mhm.
Yemen, Libya,
Yeah.
Somalia, I can't remember the others. And, so, you know, uh, Africa was destabilized.
Mhm.
Gaddafi kept the migrants out of Europe. It was he he didn't succeed, but then again, he wasn't gung ho either. So
Yeah. He was
I'll
messing
I'll
around at
say
the
that.
edges of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are people above the president or behind the president who are actually engineering things. I think we can agree to that,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
I mean, they just give him sets of options, and, the president can, tell him, "Well, you have to go back and give me different options," but that's kinda how it works at that level. Um, so, I mean, you got all this stuff there. I mean, and a lot of this, the war specter, I don't wanna harp on the war too much, but it has a lot to do with the, economic problems in, in Europe, and the decay of the culture, uh,
Yeah.
is a lot to do with it as well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what we're witnessing, and that's why there's no real chance of any of them, or even us, going toe to toe with the Russians. I don't think any place.
Yeah,
Uh, it'd be crazy to do it
yeah, it would
and
be.
suicidal.
And it would destroy, Trump's, presidency. It destroy the Republican chances for the midterms, which look pretty good actually,
Yeah,
especially after all the redistricting that's going on in Texas and Florida and Ohio.
yeah.
And, you know, that's just, and I know our oligarchy wants it, and they'll give him latitude to do whatever they want him to do, but, at the end of the day, they'll toss him aside like a used Kleenex, and, you know
He's saying the right things.
yeah,
Like, for example, when, they had the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting over there where China, Russia, and India, all were together, and he was kind of shooting rubber bands at it, from from the cheap seats. Uh, he says a lot of things to, please the, neocons,
yes,
and he does a lot of, empty gestures, essentially to please the neocons. And I think, like, the Iranian thing was an empty gesture. What's going on in Venezuela is an empty gesture, and there are gonna be a lot more of them because he has to give them some reason to run out and say, "Rah, rah, 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 USA." But I think he's probably, reconciled himself to the fact that, the best he's gonna be able to do is get a seat at the table with the other 3, other 2 or 3 great powers, because I mean, that last tweet or whatever it is, he was on what is his Truth Social.
yeah.
It sounded almost fatalistic, like you're all plotting against me and gonna have your, very lucrative setup. It was going to succeed and da 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 da. And it sounded like it's like sour grapes, I guess is what the way to describe it. Um, Now things are still moving though, every place. And one of the things that's still moving is in the relationship between Russia and China. They just at this SCO thing, they signed. Well, it's the intent to go ahead with it. The Power of Siberia 2 pipeline. Um, it's a 30-year contract,
Okay.
and it'll take about half of what was once labeled for Europe and send it to China.
Yeah.
And there's Power of Siberia 1. I think they're still working on. This was just the go ahead part of the Power of Siberia 2. And then they have similar things with India, and they're going to make up all of, if not more, of the energy that they were selling to Europe. They're just going to send it to other. That's what we've been saying for
Yeah.
years. That there's a there's a
Europe is
market for
still
energy, and
getting
there's nothing we can do
Russian
about
oil.
it. Yeah.
They're getting Russian oil in the black market directly, or they're getting it indirectly through India. It's piped over to India. India takes their cut, and then they sell it at a premium to. So Europe is not doing without uh, uh, Russian oil. Maybe not as much as they were before the war, but you know, this idea that that they're not getting it from Russia and that Russia's being punished economically is is BS. It's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
the Chinese, I think it's discounted by, like, 20% from what it was
Huh?
going to Europe, but they got a 30-year contract, so
I didn't know
if
that.
you're
Good
in
for them.
business, you'll give away that much because there's a high markup
Right.
on, energy. So, yeah, I mean, they're sorting it all out, over there, and you have all this chaos over here, um, and it really reminds you of what happened. It's just right in front of us what it happens when a civilization goes into steep decline
Yeah.
and another civilization is rising fairly
Right.
quickly, and that's just what you're saying. And I'm not a prophet or genius for figuring it out. People have been saying it for
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. The so-called Thucydides trap also as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and of course that's not exactly coterminous actually because Sparta was not going into decline.
Hmm.
Uh, Athens was ascending, but they were both fairly confident, virile powers, each in their own way. Okay, the West is going into decline. Okay, I would have said America as well. Now I'm not an optimist, but neither am I a black pilled pessimist. I
Yeah.
think that we have stopped the decline in America.
Hmm.
Okay. That's why I don't think we're going to have a civil war. We could if things go south, if Trump is removed from office, if, you know, I mean, all things being equal, right now, there's a lot more cultural confidence in America.
Hmm.
Uh, Immigration, illegal immigration has stopped.
Yes.
A lot of illegals are going back on their own, which Trump predicted. A lot are being rounded up and sent
Yeah.
to Sudan, you know.
Yeah. They
Um,
raided a Hyundai dealership. Got
yeah,
400. Yeah. It was,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Today, right? I think
yeah,
today,
yeah. I think it was
yesterday.
today. Yeah.
Um, one of the things that Trump did from the very first on January 20th, his inauguration, is he says, "I'm calling this the Gulf of America."
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
and it went through. A few people complained. Nobody, I mean, but hardly at all.
Yeah.
They got Pete Hegseth in. I got a problem with some of his theological beliefs, but that's okay. We could talk about those another day. He renamed all those bases after the Confederate generals.
bless his heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and now a lot of people would say, "Well, that's just window dressing." No, culture matters,
Yeah.
okay? And cultural confidence matters.
Yeah.
And right now, I see more cultural confidence in America and among Americans than I've seen just a year ago,
Yeah, I have too. Yeah.
okay?
I'll agree with you 100%
And
there.
if this continues, then I will say we will have dodged the bullet of a civil war, however it's defined.
Mhm.
I don't see that in Europe.
Yeah.
I just don't. In
Yeah.
fact, what I saw was that poor little girl holding those two-bladed weapons, in Scotland, in Dundee.
I don't understand how men over there can live with themselves.
Well, I can't,
Seeing that.
and I'll tell you, they'll go to jail. They'll go to prison. I mean,
Oh, now,
it
they arrested the girl, at least one of them, the one that had the
yeah,
weapons,
huh?
and what they did is they sent her to the equivalent of social services,
Right.
which, I don't know what they're gonna do do because they I think there's probably a blackout of anything from this point on,
Yeah,
because of her age,
yeah.
but if it
No, no.
happened here, they would, give them the family a plan to follow. They have to do this, 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 and this,
Right.
for 6
Yeah,
months or whatever, or they
yeah,
yank her out and put her in foster care.
yeah, yeah.
Um, that's
We I mean, I agree with you. I don't see how the men can sleep with themselves. However, here in America, if you're a middle-class guy working at some Fortune 400 company or, just even a mid-level non-Fortune 500 company, maybe 100 employees, there's this 50-year-old dumpy woman who's a Karen who's working at HR and, she has your balls in her hands. And the more she squeezes, the more and if you lose your job, you're not going to get another one. It's going to be worse and your marriage is going to fall apart. You're going to lose your home and it's all that. So what do you do whenever they say, "Well, we're going to have a gay pride parade on in June and we want you to show up," you say, "Yes, sir, I'm going to be there," and if your boss tells you that men can have babies, you just you go along with it. You just suck it up. Uh,
yeah,
but in England, in Scotland, I mean, you so much as pray outside of an abortion clinic,
yeah,
they will put you
yeah.
in jail.
They'll arrest you.
But that can't last forever. Eventually, the men are just going to go all Braveheart and just start tearing down the local king's benches and courthouses and all that.
Yeah, England's not that big a place,
No,
uh,
no,
and they've got a culture of propriety that probably would keep the police from being completely barbaric as far as the popular uprising, and they might cross lines.
they
And
might.
every day that they push it further, it makes it more likely that the police will cross lines when it
Yeah,
push comes to shove.
yeah.
Here, I feel you on the having pulled the nose up from the steep decline that we were in. I agree with that to that extent. I'm not sure it's still not gonna decline and um, that we're that it's gonna be that all the promises are gonna be fulfilled, that we hear from the Trump administration. Um, I don't have any doubt that they wanna do it, and I take my hat off to them so far. They've done dramatic
Oh, yeah, they
job.
did tremendous work. Tremendous.
Um, but if you still have those underlying problems,
We do.
uh, race problem,
Yeah.
let's say you solve the, illegal immigration problem because the border's sealed and the movement is going the right way now. But you still have a huge race problem, uh, with, I call them wildings because that's what they used to be called, where, blacks will just haul off and smack or stab or whatever, white person. And, that you got that all over the place. And you've got, like you were saying, the problem of the Karens and the we used to call them feminazis. Uh,
Feminazis, yeah.
That's yeah, but it is still, um, a multicultural society with the black-white thing, and it's still a feminist quasi matriarchal society, and, that is inherently unstable just above and beyond
Agreed.
everything else.
Agreed. I'm not saying we're out of the woods,
Yeah, yeah.
but I am seeing light in a clearing
Yeah, yeah.
that is not anywhere evident in Western Europe.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and and one thing I will say about America is, and that the Europe doesn't have this because you don't have Europe. You got Spain, France, Portugal, England, Scotland, Germany, Netherlands, blah blah blah. All these little countries,
Mhm.
okay, are fairly little. But America, you got this vast continent, and it absorbs a lot of. It can absorb a lot of uh, um, the demographic strife. Um, I mean, there are areas that you can go throughout vast swaths of America which are red. I
Yeah.
mean, and they've got red sheriffs, and I mean, this first became apparent during the 2000 election. I saw a county by county map, and you could literally drive all the way from San Diego to Maine and not pass through a blue county. And it was called the Clinton Archipelago. The These blue spots were the where the blues
It's
were
just
the
around the big cities where the people
yeah,
congregate and they can
exactly,
recruit them to
exactly. And
yeah,
so
I got it,
you know, I
yeah.
mean, uh, no, we have our problems. And we'll always have problems, but um, there's also one other ace up our sleeve, and that's Israel. And I'll tell you why. And I said this over 3 years ago, talking to a mutual friend of ours for October 7th, 2023. It was 6 months before then. Uh, and we were both feeling fairly black pilled because it was during the midst of the Biden administration. And I said, the oligarchs are not going to let us completely collapse because if we go downhill, then Israel is done for.
Yeah,
And and he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, just what I said. We're the only country on earth that doesn't treat Israel like a pariah. Maybe we were one of five. Now we're probably the only one. You
right.
know? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, he, the military industrial complex to sustain itself needs a healthy working class, middle class that's fairly prosperous. Otherwise, there's no military industrial complex.
They are trying to revive it, and I will give them an A for their beginning efforts, I guess.
Uh-huh.
These are just, the kind of the first out of the stall efforts. And it's putting us in a place where it can be reformed, um, as opposed to what we were in before where it was
Right.
just straight decline.
Yeah, yeah.
And so no one really knows. I mean, it could actually work out in the long term as well if the movement to the right doesn't stop at some point before it gets to where it needs to be. That's really the question. How far to the right will it go? Um, but that, remains to be seen.
Well,
I try to be optimistic about it though. I'd rather
well,
be optimistic than pessimistic just because of the fact that, how it makes you feel?
I mean, I just look at some of these people who are black pilled, and I say, you guys don't understand. We're going through a uh, a renaissance, if you will, a reformation, and because reality wins in the end, it always does. And one thing C.S. Lewis said was that conservatism is the ideology of reality. Words to that effect.
Mhm. Yeah. I will
Um,
agree with you there. Yeah.
I mean, you look at, your typical Protestant denomination, well, they have purple-haired lesbian bishops.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, and, they're going downhill.
Yeah, but they're not having babies either. I mean, that's the thing
Yeah,
that, the demographics
right.
are,
Right.
really favor
Yeah,
conservatives, so
at your typical Episcopal church, which
yeah,
is the used to be an Episcopalian, but that's the highest caste of American society in
right.
any major American city. You know, it's fags and hags, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean, it just is. That's not a demography that's robust,
yeah.
you know?
Well, whenever I get a little bit, bent out of shape about it, I always remember that Hank Williams Jr. video, song, "Country Boy Can't Survive,"
Yeah, yeah.
because, there's a whole section of the country, and it's not just in the South, but the South is the best example of it, where everything could go all to hell, and, there are some people that wouldn't even notice it, but there are a lot of people that would adapt fairly quickly because they know how to do all kinds of things that you would need to do to keep yourself alive during those circumstances.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody in the country knows how to do a lot of stuff that,
yeah,
and so, yeah, I mean, I there's hope here in America. Now in Europe, I don't know. I think the the only peace to be had over there is on the side of an ugly war,
yeah, yeah,
on the other side of an ugly war.
yeah.
But
It's gonna be a violent racial conflict.
yeah,
Oh, and I should say religious as well, you
yeah,
know? Um, I think there are probably 3rd and 4th generation Muslims from Algeria and France that have acculturated and assimilated. They'll probably be on the side of the Christian majority. I don't know. Um, Civil wars are never as neat as we think they are, you know? I mean, there were close to 100,000 blacks who fought on the South Side during the Civil War in the United States, you know? Now, a lot of them were in the train or the encampments and stuff like that, but there were others who actually fought rather bravely, you know, uh, because they were free men anyway or whatever, freedmen or whatever. And it's never as neat as we think. In Oklahoma, for instance, the Cherokee were divided. Most of the Cherokee fought for the South,
yeah,
not all though, you know, and so and it probably was the same thing with the Creek and the Seminole as well. But since I live in the Cherokee Nation, I know more about that.
yeah, yeah. It'll probably get ugly over there. That's kind of been the point of this program is to
Yeah.
point out, uh, that I mean, we're not doing exactly the same thing that Professor Betts is doing, but, just try to educate people that,
Yeah.
if if you hear stuff go boom over there, don't
Yeah.
be surprised.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I mean, um, I, I must say I'm disappointed in the royal family,
oh, man.
uh, because they could have, I think, prevented some of this. They could, when the immigration floodgates were opened, I think it was incumbent upon the Queen to tell Tony Blair, let's not do this to
Mm,
this
mm,
extent. But
mhm.
she didn't.
Right.
And Charles is, if he's not a Muslim, he's very Islamophilic.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen him in the kufi at the
Yeah,
meetings with yeah,
yeah,
it's just that's sad. But,
it is.
well, we're at, an hour 7, so, you think we covered it just about,
Yeah,
or
I think so. I think so.
is
What
there
do you
anything
think?
else? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think we've talked about it as much as we can without wandering, so I'll go ahead, so, I mean, we should say, if you like this program, click and subscribe,
Yes,
and we'll see
please.
you next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we'll
We'll
see you
see you.
next time.
Okay, again, thank you, Misha.